And do you support Donald Trump?
I do.
And why is that?
So one of my main things was I'm really concerned about the financial security for my children and grandchildren in the future. So really, I'm just concerned about the budget deficit, to be honest.
Okay, so did you know that Trump signed off on more debt-related spending?
Yeah, does that go into the budget deficit?
Yeah, so Donald Trump, according to the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, indicated that Trump signed off on 4 trillion more debt-related spending under his first administration, and his campaign plans for the next administration will do 4 trillion more than Harris's campaign plans, according again to the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, a nonpartisan committee from the federal government. And we can also point to the 3.4 trillion dollars that Trump added through the Big Beautiful Bill to the debt.
The 3.4 trillion being added is inaccurate.
That was from the Congressional Budget Office. That's not inaccurate.
Well, it was inaccurate. It's inaccurate today. They revised it recently.
Okay, so what was the revision? I must not have seen that.
4 trillion budget to wipe off the budget in the next 10 years.
Can you give me the title on that? You said it reduces the deficit?
By 4 trillion. Yeah, the CBO was the one they just put a statement out last Friday.
Yeah, tell me
Good
the
old
title.
summer Friday.
Tell me the title.
I don't know the title off the top of my hand, and I can't swipe out. It's from the
CBO indicates BBB saves 4 trillion.
Yeah, that probably kick it up on Google, I'd say.
Nope. Not a thing. You just made that
so
up.
CBO revision. Try CBO revision for the big beautiful bill, and then filter your results by the date that it was released. If you're having like a filtration
CBO revision
for the big beautiful bill.
Okay, yeah, July 21st, 2025.
It was more recent than that.
There isn't any
They
more
released
recent.
it last. They released it on a Friday. I could swipe. I mean, I can swipe it. The thing is, I can't find it.
Yeah, I
if
mean,
swipe out.
you can go find it and then come back and tell me the title.
So if I open my app back up, I'll just be here kind of like chilling. I just need to unmute or whatever.
Yeah, when you swipe out, I won't be able to hear you. But once you come back into the app, I will be able to hear you. Just make sure
Okay, cool,
every
cool.
1.5 minutes or so, you come back till you can see me, because otherwise it will kick you out.
I don't think it'll take that long. Okay, right on.
For sure.
For sure. Appreciate it.
Go ahead. Are you talking about tariffs will decrease the debt?
No, I'm talking about the deficit in general. I was just simply saying that the reason
So you're
that
saying
I
the
voted
tariffs.
for him.
Okay, so what you're saying is the tariffs will.
I'm saying
increase...
that I voted for him to lower the deficit. Is what I'm saying.
Hey, I get you. The analysis that I had about the Big Beautiful Bill wasn't wrong. You're just saying that there's a different analysis.
It's updated, correct. They didn't factor in the tariffs, correct.
Tariffs are not in the Big Beautiful Bill. And in the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget's analysis of Harris versus Trump's campaign plans, they take into account tariffs. So that was already taken into account. This is about $400 billion.
Yes, but we're getting away from what my position is. My position simply is I voted for Trump to lower the deficit, and from the most current information that we have, he's going to lower it by $4 trillion over the next 10 years. That's all I'm saying.
That's only taking into account one thing. That's not his overall policy. That's only taking into account tariffs. If you look at the Committee
That's
for
just taking into account that the deficit drops. Deficit is going to be $4 trillion cheaper, and that's the main driving reason for my children and grandchildren.
Which is $400 billion a year, okay? Which is specifically from tariff revenue, okay? And I understand you're saying tariff revenue comes in, you're gonna have less debt. What I'm telling you though is that if you look at the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, they made an analysis of the campaign plans for Harris and Trump, and they took into account the revenue that would come in from tariffs in the amount that Trump would cause in terms of debt-related spending.
Sure. I mean, to go back in time on campaign outlines versus what's been laid out structurally into a bill and what is now law and being implemented. Yes, I get what you're saying. They're two distinctly different things. I'm just simply saying the reason I voted for the man and why I support him, and my evidence to back up what I'm saying as to why I was supporting.
Okay. I also just want to let you know, tariffs are paid by Americans. So that's going to be taken from the economy in America. So if
How
what you're doing
much?
is you're
What
shifting,
percentage?
if what you're doing is you're shifting the tax burden from income tax through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act by decreasing income tax, and you're replacing it with tariffs, what you're doing is you're shifting the burden of taxation from people who are higher income to people who are lower income, because people who are lower income specifically spend a greater proportion of their income on consumer products. And if they spend a greater proportion of income on consumer products, well, then it's going to be the case that they then are going to be paying a greater percentage in their income comparative to people who are
Are you
rich, specifically
are
on
you
that
making an
increase in
argument for
taxation.
cost increases or for the federal for the budget of the country? I'm not understanding. I get what you're trying to do. I'm just simply laying out something that I
You didn't
felt
listen to
like
what I said. Can you repeat back what I just said
I
at all?
did.
Like the general concept?
Of the hypothetical that you just laid out of price increases for people. The premise of what you're trying to say is that you're trying to undercut the fact that I'm right, and you're trying to find an argument around and find another little thing to say, yeah, but what about this? But it's going to cause this. I'm simply saying my concern was the deficit to go down. I gave you the source citing the proof of what I think is coming, right? The deficit coming down, and so that's the proof to the claim to the reason that I supported him. I'm not really interested in bouncing off into other areas of whatever, If you you'll beat me at that, but you're not going to beat me at this.
I've already beat you. You didn't actually re-say what I said at all. Would you like me to play back
Oh,
what I
I'm
said?
sorry. So what is okay? Go ahead.
If what you're doing is you're shifting the tax burden from income tax through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act by decreasing income tax, and you're replacing it with tariffs, what you're doing is you're shifting the burden of taxation from people who are higher income to people who are lower income, because people who are lower income specifically spend a greater proportion of their income on consumer products. And if they spend a greater proportion of income on consumer products, well, then it's going to be the case that they then are going to be paying a greater percentage in their income comparative to people who are
Are you?
rich. Did you hear what I said then?
Yeah, I heard every word that you said. I'm just trying to figure out in your mind how that has you're making the link to the claim that I'm saying that the big beautiful bill is reducing our budget by $4 trillion. Like you're saying from what I'm gathering, you're trying to say how the money's shifting around and how the ends how the means is just happen making the ends happen, but you're just simply trying to find a way around what I've originally stated and get me caught up in explaining things that you probably have more knowledge on or whatever you want to say. But I get what you're trying to do. I'm just not as well spoken as you.
What I'm saying is that it shifts the burden of taxation. Income tax is progressive, meaning people who are higher income spend a greater proportion of their income on that type of taxation, right, when they are paying the tax. So do you want revenue from taxation to come from people who are disproportionately rich or disproportionately from people who are lower income?
So I don't have a preference on where revenue comes from, as
What?
long as the revenue is a cheap. Okay, let me ask you this: is the big beautiful bill, as you understand today, and what you've been, updated on, is it going to reduce the deficit of this country?
No, it will increase the debt.
So the CBO is that you relied on to say so much that it was going to increase by 3.4 trillion. You're not going to say now that our deficit is going to be increased by we're going to pay off basically 4 trillion more than what instead of adding to.
Again, you're just looking at tariffs, right? What you're not looking at is the big
I'm
beautiful
looking at
bill. The
just the
big beautiful
deficit.
bill is separate from tariffs. And if you're looking at the overall effect that's going to affect the debt, then what you have to do is you have to look at Committee for Responsible Federal Budget analysis, like I already mentioned to you, that compares the different campaign plans from Harris and Trump.
So your statement, as you are here today, and you've seen that the what you've read from little. I granted you've had little time to read it. Your claim is that we are not going to decrease the federal deficit of this country over the next 10 years for whatever reason, whatever mechanism caused that to happen. The Trump administration is not going to reduce the federal budget over the next 10 years by 4 trillion. Is that your claim?
The tariffs will. The committee
No,
first
the
are
Trump administration. I don't. Yeah, let's. I'm not saying tariffs. It's a multi-pronged. Let me ask the question: is the Trump administration going to reduce our deficit by 4 trillion over the next 10 years?
No, that's just tariffs.
I've already told you. I know what you're saying. I know where the money's coming from. You're trying to get me back to a foundational level of the claim, like I don't understand. I've already acknowledged long before. You obviously repeating yourself. So let me repeat myself again. I know where the money's coming from. It's coming from tariffs. That is affecting the budget deficit. I know that's where that
Yeah,
money's
but
coming
that's
from.
not going to be the net effect on the budget deficit. The tariff, that's just the revenue specifically from tariffs.
So what does the CBO state then? So are you trying to say then that the 4 trillion actually just negates the 3.4 negative side? So now it's only actually a 0.6 billion to the positive side. Is that the math
If
you're
you're
trying to?
if you're only taking into account those two, what you have to do is look at the overall effect of what the administration is going to be.
Has that other committee that you're referencing, have they revised their numbers with the new numbers that's come in from the numbers from tariffs and the money that the country's receiving? Or are we
Well,
going off old numbers of not counting for a revenue that's coming in?
well, they would be projecting greater level of tariff revenue.
Steel man my argument for me real quick. Tell me what you think I'm arguing.
Yeah, you think that you're arguing specifically that there's going to be a $4 trillion decrease in the budget deficits over the next 10 years, right, due to Trump's policy overall.
Close enough. I'd say Trump administration, but yeah, the policy word I don't like because that connotates a specific, if policy can include tariff and congressional bills and things like that as a whole. I just generally mean that the Trump administration, and we have our first indicator that was revised from the CBO that points in that direction. So I'm trying to lean on that evidence.
Okay. So if you take into account both of them, the Congressional Budget Office, the 3.4 trillion added to the debt over the next 10 years, the context of the big beautiful bill, and then the 4 trillion through the tariffs, that would be it's not 4 trillion taking into account what the big beautiful bill adds. It's 4 trillion just in terms of the tariff revenue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to look at the overall effect of what the budget deficit is going to be impacted by due to Donald Trump's policy, you have to look at the overall effect of what his estimated policies are going to cause, which is exactly why I'm referencing the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget. And you can make a set determination, say, if it was the case that they had a difference in the tariff revenue established through the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, that you can then put in the new numbers. But it is the case that they actually are estimating more revenue, right? Because there were greater tariffs that Trump was advocating for originally.
As well. The same number that the CBO increased by is what the other committee, they have adjusted their numbers are set at that as well. Because
Like
you might be right here.
I'm sorry. It's like he doesn't listen to me. I said it would be more because they expected more in terms of revenues.
What I'm failing to understand of what you're trying to tell me here is where does that $4 trillion that's collected, okay? Where's that going to go and what's that going to do?
The tariff revenue?
Yes.
That would to reduce the deficit.
Okay. So where is a higher than 4 trillion over the next 10-year number increase to offset? Maybe we could start, maybe since I'm not an economic major, we could start from a bare bones level. There's a 4 trillion number. Where's the number that you're saying is going to offset that to where it's going to put us into a deficit?
Offset. It's gonna put us into a deficit. Of like other policies. What other policies will he engage in? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Like
Okay.
where are you getting the basis of your numbers?
Yeah,
Because we're combining two reports, and it's a little
overall
hard to do that if the numbers aren't the same for what they project the tariffs to be. In my humble opinion, of not being a math major, that's how I would assume doing simple back of the hand math.
That's fine. There's the big beautiful bill is the one they specifically passed so far. Mass deportation specifically that will cost money. There is specifically modernizing military, increasing military, different budget bills specifically. That will increase how much, because they had specifically under the first administration, they had different types of bills they did after 2 years, and after years later, they have different bills that come later on. So that's why I'm referencing the overall effect through the context of the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, which takes into account these different policy proposals. And if you want to look at the tariffs, it actually has a very similar revenue projected. So not much of a distinction in terms of what the established numbers would be. There's still significantly more debt for Trump than Harris.
Right on. And I'll have to go back and look at that source myself. I was unaware of there was a competing or a not necessarily competing, but it sounds like I can't imagine the CBO and another organization doing the exact same report. So they probably pull some of the same data, touch on the same things. I'll have to go back through and kind of do some simple math and look. But so how are you going to feel? I mean, how are you going to take it? Just as somebody that likes watching you and listening most of the time, how are you going to take it if he does decrease deficit and all these things that everybody rails against? I mean, are you so against the idea that if it does work out that you would just say don't give a like
So
or would you actually like
I will
applaud it when it's all said and done?
I will acknowledge that the deficit has declined. I will think that that's a good thing in declining the deficit. I don't think it's a good thing in terms of the way that they get to decreasing the deficit because it shifts the burden of taxation from people who are higher income to people who are lower income. So it's because he's
Sure.
replacing a progressive tax structure with a regressive tax structure.